Welcome back to the program. Joining us now for our all-star analysis is former Speaker of the House, Bronwyn Bishop, and Sky News contributor, Gary Hardgrave. Great to have you both on. Thank you so much for joining us. Bronwyn, you're in black tonight.
Right.
I don't think that was a coincidence.
Absolutely.
You're in mourning. How would you sum it up?
Well, I've been in some doozies of elections. 87 was bad. 93, the Houston election was terrible. But this one was a real doozy. Seriously, there were so many errors made, and we wanted to support Peter. He's a good man. But the whole thing was ill-conceived. Albanese came out in January 1 and just went fight, laid out what he was going to do, and it was attack Dutton, label him with getting rid of Medicare, link it back to the time when he was the Minister for Health, and never mind the truth, just lie. Good Lenin maxim. Say a lie often enough, it becomes the truth. And then instead of having 3 points, and that's about all people can handle, 3 points, I think there were 12 talking points. There should have been a focus on the fact that unrealised capital gains tax was coming, and it should have been axe this tax. It worked with Tony Abbott, it was a good phrase. The petrol tax was excellent. That was excellent and should have been for the entire first period of that election period, 3 years it would be in place. And then tell them what's in store for them. So you start with that tax and you look at the rest of them. But always say what we are fundamentally about, and it's the individual.
Yeah.
We want policies that make life for the individual better. So if we cut petrol tax, it makes it better for the individual. If we, in fact, make a policy that says we're going to make everybody go back to work and no more working from home, that's not considering the individual.
No.
Because families were being more cohesive. Not only women staying at home, but fathers closer to children. They lost that commute. So there were lots of issues where we lost focus on the individual. The Labor Party is a socialist party, it's a collective, and the collective will always sacrifice the individual to what they want.
Let me bring in Gary Hardgrave here. Gary, I want to ask you about Peter Dutton's performance. I felt like he made Anthony Albanese look like a star campaigner.
Yeah, and it's great to be with you all, and I can't fault anything Bronwyn's just said, but I'm not wearing black tonight. Look, before Christmas, Peter Dutton was going to win, and I think the campaign went on holidays for a few weeks through January, February. I just think everyone just said, oh, we're coasting to a win. And so what they did, the Prime Minister in Bronwyn's ride was bumping around. He was spending $1 billion a day. So what are we, 100 days into the year? So there's 100 billion that he's ticked over so far this year in promises. But the man was just Energizer Bunny, and unfortunately, the Liberal campaign was awfully MIA. And I blame the structure, I blame the campaign unit. And in my view, there's a whole bunch of people should be just hanging their head in shame and resigning. And I would throw in all of the leadership group, frankly. They've all failed, because somebody should have tapped Peter Dutton on the shoulder and said, mate, you've got to get into this a bit more than you are. And so they didn't. Headquarters, the Canberra Secretariat, the President, the campaign director, they should all go. Probably a few of the Vice Presidents, if not all of them, they should all go. Here in Queensland, no sandbagging of Peter Dutton's seat. The guy was travelling around 150 electorates. He had the most marginal seat in Queensland, and they either had no research or the research was pathetic, so get rid of the pollsters because they don't know what they're doing. There was no sandbagging. In other words, no protection of him, and every seat around Dixon was lost. Every seat around Dixon. So there was an impact as Peter Dutton got framed as the issue, as the problem, and Albo got away with all the lies. So that's the big fail. And Peter Dutton rightly has taken responsibility for it because, well, it is his responsibility, but there's a whole bunch of people. Look, I heard about soul searching, but we've got to get rid of a few heels as well. We've got to get rid of a few heels that are also dragging the party down.
Absolutely. And that every day the campaign, Bronwyn, Labor stood out there, Albo flashing his Medicare card around, waving it about every single day. But when you think about it, did those scare campaigns actually work? And then what does that say about the coalition? Why were they so weak to push back?
They didn't push back. They just didn't. They didn't refute the 600 billion. They didn't refute any of it. And I'm at a loss to know why. And what we should have been fighting this on energy and on, when you say cost of living, what is it that makes cost of living a burden? It's the cost of energy, electricity, of gas, of fuel, and we're attacking those things now. And even with the nuclear thing, you say, right, yes, we've talked about nuclear, yes, we'll have that in 2040, but right now you need relief now, and this is what we're proposing now. And this will bring down the cost of living, which will give you the individual quality of life again. And that's where the immediacy of the plan was so important to stress, and then say, if you re-elect these people, not say you can't have more of that, but this is what they've got in store for you. And list it out. You know, there are so many things that they've got in store for us that are just going to be bad for this, for the people of Australia. They may have run a good campaign, but they're going to run a lousy government.
Well, I want to ask you about that, Gary, because Bronwyn, who's seated beside me, I've often heard you say, Bronwyn, that you sat with Anthony Albanese in Parliament for a couple of decades and you never thought of him as a leader.
No, I didn't.
Gary, he's going to go down now as one of the great Labor leaders and will probably be a 3-term Prime Minister. What does this mean for the country, this result?
Yeah, look, congratulations to him. He and I were both elected in March of 1996, so we came in together, and I don't think anybody saw him ever as a Prime Minister. He was a warrior of the left. He was a joke from the right of the Labor Party's point of view, but not anymore. He is the most successful Labor Prime Minister since Bob Hawke, and Bob Hawke was the most successful Labor Prime Minister ever, from what I can read of it. And so, you know, I just think the guy has been able to write an amazing personal story. And look, he's still living in public housing, James. It's just a miracle. But you know, by any measure, by any measure, he was able to get away with all that he got away with because the Liberal Party went to sleep. They had all of the wrong advice, no sandbagging, no effort, wrong polling, you name it. Everything went wrong, and a failure to actually communicate. And I heard Danica say this before. You know, there has to be a passion and ambition, a bold vision for Australia. And by the way, we don't live in an economy. We live in a community. And so constantly talking about the economy made no sense to people. We needed to give people an idea that tomorrow can be better if we go this way. And we've got lots of beautiful black coal in the ground that could keep the energy prices back down the way it used to be. Nuclear wasn't necessarily the absolute be-all and end-all, but nuclear should be part of the mix eventually. Let's get back into that black coal. Renewables are going to kill this country. We're going to have the power go off. Maybe during Magic Round next year. Maybe during State of Origin next year. You know, I mean, we're going to lose power. There's going to be an East Coast blackout, and it's real. It's going to happen.
Well,
I think you're right. If we lose power during the football, maybe that will wake up everyday Australians.